Hey guys, it's Kaylor. Welcome to the YouTube channel. In today's video, I have an Adobe XD tutorial for you guys. We're going to be creating a landing page for a browser-based text editor, and we're also going to be creating a menu that allows you to set up your own keybinds for that text editor utilizing Adobe XD's keys and gamepad triggers. So we're going to take a look at that today. We're going to design the website and create the interactive prototype. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started. So like normal, I have the project file link down in the description, and that's going to have you ready for the start of this tutorial. So it's going to be a 1920 by 1080 artboard, and I have the 12 column grid set on, and I've dropped the opacity down to 10% so we can see through it a little better. I also have the colors, character styles, and components for this tutorial ready in there for you. To get started, I'm going to set my artboard name to home. And I'm going to drag down a few guides from the top. So the first one we're going to drag down is going to go down to 80 pixels. The next one we're going to drag down is going to go down to 40 pixels from the bottom of the artboard. And from the left, we're going to drag out one to touching the left-hand side of the first column. So I'm going to hold shift, that snaps, and we'll snap it right alongside that column. So I'm going to drag out another one, and we're going to go to the second column, holding shift again to make sure it snaps, and we'll set one right there, and we're going to drag all the way over to the furthest column on the right and line that right there. So that's all the guides we're going to need for this tutorial. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off the grid for now since we have these nice guides set up for us. This design is going to be in dark theme, so I'm going to select my artboard and just fill that with black. I'm going to zoom in into the top left hand corner, and I'm going to grab the rectangle tool, and we'll just create some squares. These are going to be 8 pixels by 8 pixels. I'm going to hold Alt and drag out to make a duplicate, and I'm going to put this 2 pixels to the right. I'm going to grab both of these and drag down another duplicate with Alt. But I'm also going to rotate this one 45 degrees, and I'm going to select all of them and remove the border, and I'm also going to apply a border radius of 1 pixel onto these. We can select this one that we've rotated to 45 degrees and fill it with our blue color, which is 017 AFF. Next, I'm going to grab the rectangle tool one more time, and we'll hold shift and drag out a square. This is going to be 24 pixels by 24 pixels. I'm going to grab our 4 squares we have over here, holding shift and selecting each one, Command G or Control G to group them. I'm going to select that grouping in our new square, and we're going to center align those together just like so. Selecting the square on top, we're going to go ahead and turn the opacity all the way down to 0 and uncheck the border. So now I'm just going to select that in the grouping, make sure it's centered, and hit Command G to group it together. Now that we have that, we can create our logo. We're going to do a text-based logo, so I'm just going to type in the word browser-based. And today we're going to be using Open Sans, so I'm going to set this to my logo font size, which is 25 point, and it's bold weight. And I'm going to align this to the top of this guide right here. So this is going to be our baseline. Next, I'm going to center align this with our logo, and then we're going to put this 12 pixels to the right from that. So that is the start of our navigation up top. So let's put our links over here on the right next. To start for our links, I'm going to have an account page. And for these are going to be 17 point font, and they're going to be set to bold weight. I'm going to align them to the right, and I'm going to make sure these are all capital by selecting the uppercase. We'll just drag that and align this right with these 2 guides. I'm going to hold Alt and drag out a duplicate, and we're going to place this 45 pixels to the left. The next one is going to be about. We'll repeat this for the next 2 links. So once that's done, now we have our basic navigation on the page. Now we're going to go ahead and start with our command to open our keybind menu. So in the bottom right, we're going to have some text. So I'm just going to type out M in parentheses. And then this is going to be to open keybind menu. So we're going to place this using our guides that we created before, and this should be 40 pixels from the bottom, which it is, nice. And so what we're going to tell the user is that they can press M on the keyboard to open up the keybind menu, and that will shift in from the side. So when they're working on a project on this website, they can set their own keybinds. So we want to have that right here. And we also want to set this to a gray color. So we're going to have this at 585A5F. So it contrasts from our links up top. Next, we need our H1, so our heading for this page. So I'm just going to type out start a new web project. And we're going to set that to our heading font size, which is 50, and it's going to be set to bold weight. I'm going to line this to the left, and we're going to align this to the right of our guide, which is our second column starting place. And below this, we're going to have some paragraph text. So I'll just drag that out. And in here, I'm just going to put some text for a second. And we're going to set this to Open Sans 17 point font, and we'll change the font weight to regular. So I'm just going to paste in some text. And this is just letting the user have some information. And then we're also allowing them to go check out the custom plans. So I'm going to grab that and change it from regular style weight to bold, just so that shows that they can click on that. And let's drag up the text box so that it's at the bottom of our text. And we'll align this 20 pixels below our heading so we have some good space. To make this contrast from our heading a little bit, we're going to drop this down to 50% opacity. I'm going to double click on my artboard and select my layout grid. And now we can create some buttons. So I'm going to grab a rectangle and I'm just going to drag this out 2 columns wide. So that's 258 pixels wide. And we'll set the height to about 70 pixels. Let's add some border radius to this. So we'll go with 5 and remove the border. So I want 2 buttons here. So I'm going to set the first one to a color. And the second one, we might have that as a different shade of black. So let's set this about 40 pixels below our body text there. And inside of this, we're going to have a create new project text. So create new project. And since this is a button, we're going to have this at 17 point, and we'll change this to bold. I'm also going to center line this. So I'm going to select that and our rectangle and just make sure that it's centered inside, and we'll just reposition this like so. I'm going to hold Alt and create a duplicate. And I'm going to turn off our layout grid, and we'll drag the second one over about 30 pixels. So we're going to set this to black. So I'm going to set this to 131313, which is just a slightly lighter shade, so it's noticeable. And for our secondary button text, we're going to say manage projects. Now that we have this whole section of content, I'm going to select all of it by clicking and dragging, and we're going to make sure that is centered vertically on our artboard. So since our website is an in-browser text editor called browser-based, we need something over here on the right that represents creating a new project, building something. So I used Adobe Dimension, which I have used on the channel before. If you'd like to see a tutorial about that, I have some on the channel. And I created this image. It's basically just a cube being assembled in one of the little pieces over here on the left, and then I have this for some color. So I'm just going to paste that in and then Command-Shift left square bracket key to send it to the back. And I'm just going to kind of align this visually here, and we'll just stick that right there. So that's the main part of our website. The main part of this tutorial is going to be over our keybind menu and wireframing and prototyping that up. So next, let's go ahead and design that. So our menu is going to overlay onto this design. So we're going to create its own artboard to design this so it doesn't get in our way. So I'm just going to drag one out. And this is going to be 674 pixels wide by 1080 pixels high. I'm going to double click on the name and we're just going to call this menu. I'm going to grab the rectangle tool and create a rectangle inside of this artboard. That's the full width and height. And we're going to set this to 131313, which is our lighter shade of black, and remove the border. Next, we can set up some guides. So the first one I'm going to drag down is going to be 100 pixels from the top of our artboard. And then on the left and the right, we're going to drag out a guide that's 80 pixels from each side. Just like that. So first we're going to have our title, and this is going to say shortcuts and keybinds. We're gonna set this to 30 point font and bold weight, and we'll just align that with our guides like that. Below this, we're gonna list each one of our keybinds. So on the left, we're gonna have some text that's gonna be defining what the shortcut or keybind is. And then on the right, we're gonna visually show that. So I'm gonna grab my type tool and I'm just gonna type in some text. And this is gonna be 17 point font and regular weight. I'm gonna align this to the left and we're gonna position the 60 pixels from the bottom of our heading there. And I'm also going to add a bit of contrast from that in the heading by dragging the opacity down to 70%. On the right side, we're going to visually show this keybind. So I'm going to grab a rectangle and I'm just going to drag one out. This rectangle is going to be 50 pixels wide by 26 pixels high. I'm also going to apply a border radius of 7 to this and remove the border. And for our fill, we're going to set this to default black, so that we have this. So I'm gonna zoom in. We're gonna align this to our right side guide and center this up with our text. Inside of this square, we're going to have a bit of text. So I'm just gonna put an X as a placeholder for now, and I'm going to center align that inside of this. Let's also set our text to bold so it stands out a little better. And I'm gonna recenter align that there. And next I'm gonna hold Alt and drag out a duplicate of the text. And I'm gonna double click, edit this, and change this to a plus. We're gonna make sure that's 20 pixels from the left side of this box. Then I'm gonna grab this box and the type inside of it, hold Alt, create a duplicate. We're gonna drag that over 20 pixels. So we might have the command key here with like a backslash here. So that would be the keybind for this. So I'm gonna grab this, make sure I'm holding shift and I can click on the background to deselect it. And I'm gonna hit repeat grid. So for our repeat grid, we're just gonna drag down till we have 11 items. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I'm also gonna change the spacing to about 32 pixels. Actually, let's go with one more, 33. So that gives us a bunch of keybinds here. So I'm gonna hit ungroup grid and Command Shift G to ungroup everything. So now I'm just gonna go in and paste a bunch of keybinds here. All right, so there is all of our list of keybinds. So ideally the user would hit Command plus the slash to split the active editor and so on. So down at the bottom of this, I'm gonna hold Alt and drag out a duplicate of this text. And we're just gonna copy this text and paste it in, except this is going to be to close the menu. So M to close menu. We're gonna set this to bold, and I'm gonna set this to our gray, and turn the opacity all the way to 100%. To the right of this, we're going to have a reset icon. So I'm just gonna drag that in, and I already have it set to our gray color. And for my icons, I like to add a rectangle for spacing around them. That is 24 pixels. And I like to turn the fill and the border off and center it just like that. Command G to group it. We'll put that there. And then down here at the bottom, if this is their first time opening the menu up, we're going to need a prompt that gives them some information. So I'm gonna drag out a rectangle like that. And we'll have the height on that at 117 or so. Let's see how many pixels that is from the bottom of that. Let's actually grab this and bump that up to 30 spacing. So we're actually 95 from the bottom of this text there. Remove the border off of that and set this to blue so it stands out. And I'm gonna grab our text that we have over here, copy that body text and paste that in over here just to save us some time. We're gonna center align it, turn the opacity all the way up, and we're just going to center that inside of this rectangle, just like that. And I'm going to change the text. And then I'm going to adjust the text area. So I'm gonna hold Alt and just drag it in till it is wide as our guides there, so we have the appropriate spacing on each side. Next, we need a close icon. So I'm just gonna drag that out. And again, I'm gonna put that 24 pixel square around this to make sure we have some good spacing. Command G to group that. And we're gonna stick that in the corner, and we'll go in 10 pixels. So we have 10 spacing on the top and on the right side. So let's go ahead and hit Command semicolon, turn off our guides, and we can take a look at our menu. So I'm gonna grab this entire menu, and I'm just going to hit Command G to group it together. We're gonna drag this artboard out of our way, and I'm gonna hold Alt and create a duplicate. And we're just gonna put this menu on top of our design like that. So now we're ready to start setting up our other artboards so that we can wireframe this process. So we're gonna wireframe this in steps. First, we want the user to press M on the keyboard and open up this menu. So I'm gonna select our home artboard and hit Command D to create a duplicate, and we'll call this Home-2. In the prototype tab, I'm gonna create a wire between these two. So I'll just drag that over. And we're gonna use a keys and gamepad trigger. We're gonna set this to M, and this is going to auto animate over 0.3 seconds. Back in the design tab, just drag this over a little bit, and we'll drag our menu off to the side. And then we'll just put that back into place. So if we hit the live preview, if I hit M on my keyboard, our menu slides in from the side. Next, we want our user to be able to set their own keybind. So I'm going to select Home-2 and duplicate it. And we're going to go back into the prototype tab. And this time, when we select this menu, we're going to have a tap trigger. And this is also going to auto animate over 0.3 seconds. So we can go back to design. And what we want to do here is we want this help message to drop off the screen. So we'll just drag that down. And because of that, we can drag these two items down, and we'll put that 40 pixels from the bottom of the artboard. We also want a help message, so I'm just going to grab this text. We'll just align this to the right. And I'm going to set this to press any key, and in parentheses, I'm going to put an S, so key or keys, to set new keybind. We'll also set this to blue and turn the opacity up to 100%. And we'll put that 80 pixels below our last keybind. So that is letting us know what we're doing. And we also want to show that the user has a keybind selected. So we'll change this background to blue on both of these, just like that. So if we hit the live preview, we hit M on the keyboard. Then if we select this keybind right here, our help message drops off the bottom, everything shifts down. We now have this telling us what to do. And we're setting this keybind right here since we selected that. So now we want to set that keybind. So I'm going to duplicate this artboard, and this will be Home-4. So we'll change these back to black. And we'll change this to A. So we set that to Command A. And we also need to delete our help message. So back in the prototype tab, this is going to be a keys and gamepad trigger. And we'll set this to Command A. And this is going to auto animate over 0.3 seconds. So now if we hit live preview, we press M, we select the keybind we want to change, Command A on the keyboard, sets the keybind. And now finally, we want to close this out. So we'll duplicate this final artboard to Home-5, and we'll drag our wire over, and we'll set this trigger to M. In the design tab, we need to drag this menu off to the side like that. And that should be everything. So finally, if we press M on the keyboard, it opens our shortcuts and keybind menu. We can click to select and set our own keybind at Command A, and then M to close out our menu. So that is it for this Adobe XD tutorial. That is designing a website and setting up some key triggers using our keyboard. So let me know what you guys want to see in the next video down in the comments below, and let me know if you like this video by giving it a thumbs up. Subscribe for more design related content. Make sure you have that notification bell on so you don't miss a video, and as always, have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next one.